Instead of saying very, say these words. Instead of very tired, say exhausted. Instead of very happy is, say thrilled. Instead of very ugly, say hideous. Instead of very loud, say deafening. Instead of very calm, say serene. Instead of very serious, say grave. Instead of very hot, say sweltering. Instead of very slow, say sluggish. Instead of very shiny, say glittering. Instead of very dry, say scorched. Instead of very tight, say constricting. Instead of very brief, say fleeting. Instead of very lazy, say indolent. Instead of very boring is, say dull. Instead of very fat, say obese. Instead of very strong, say forceful. Instead of very cold, say freezing. Instead of very funny, say hilarious. Instead of very huge, say colossal. Instead of very fast, say rapid. Instead of very risky, say precarious. Instead of very poor, say destitute. Instead of very cheap, cheapish. Instead of very clean, say spotless. Instead of very simple, say basic. Instead of very sorrow is, say apologetic. Instead of very wide, say expansive. Instead of very wise, say sage. Instead of very fancy, say lavish. Instead of very hungry, say starving. Instead of very lively, say animated. Instead of very lovely, say adorable. Instead of very nice, say kind. Instead of very shy, say timid. Instead of very pretty, beautiful. Instead of very old, say ancient.